Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have the follow-up from my last ball review, which was the Pinnacle Rush, more of Pinnacle's distance ball. This one, of course, being the Pinnacle Soft, which is going to be their softer golf ball, which I imagine is going to be for the slower swingers. I imagine that the Pinnacle Rush was for like a slow to mid swinger. I imagine this one will be for a little bit slower swinger than that just because of the soft. It has a very, very, very low compression rating. It should feel pretty spongy if I had to guess. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and look at the design of the golf ball. So, of course, Pinnacle does have, I talked about it in the last video, they have that basic, design with the little line. It's kind of a timeless classic with them. Kind of an old style, blocky font there. And then this one actually does have the black number. It's an all black design opposed to the other one, which had the red 4 underneath it. That was the Rush. So this one, the Soft, all black. Looking on the side there, it's just like the Rush. It's got that terrible alignment tool that I don't like, unfortunately, just because it's a little tiny line and then it says Soft on it. It makes it really hard to line your ball up with the words, especially since on this one there's actually a dimple where the T goes into it, so it's really difficult to see. I'll see if I can show that in a picture there, but it's actually very difficult to see as far as where it goes straight. So Pinnacle could do a little bit better of a job. I think they would actually be better off just putting a black line there, like a thick black line. I think that would be very simplistic, but it would make a big difference opposed to what they have. Feeling the golf ball, again, it does feel cheap just like the Rush, but it has a very similar feel. You're talking, a very cheap, iometer cover. So I don't imagine it's going to do any stopping on the green just like the Rush did, and the Rush almost had no checkup. So getting into that, let's go ahead and get into the chipping and putting, and let's see how we did there. All right, so out on the chipping putting green with the Pinnacle Soft. So on the Pinnacle Rush, it was very, very soft, and honestly, I had trouble getting it to spin, which is probably going to be the case here. But this one is the Pinnacle Soft, so I was hoping maybe I could get a little more spin out of it, but that really wasn't the case. Honestly, it felt the same. Coming off the wedge, it felt the same. Very dead, very bouncy ball-ish, no feedback whatsoever. Off the putter, it was the same, except I will say that with the Pinnacle Rush, if you hit it off the toe, you did feel a little bit of slight feedback. This one, even if you hit it off the toe, there's pretty much nothing there. So this golf ball is very, very soft. You're not going to get a lot of feedback as far as your chipping and putting shots to know how you did. So this might be in the very beginner seniors category ball. But overall, as far as around the green, don't expect too much. You're not going to get a lot of spin. It does feel really soft, really bouncy ball. It doesn't take a lot, which is good. You don't have to come back as far. You can be a lot more accurate. It's not going to spin left or right on you, so it's going to give you a little bit of forgiveness there. But as far as if you're a little bit more in the intermediate handicap or high, lower handicap, you're not going to be able to get the ball to spin to do anything you want with it, which is to be expected. All right, so getting into the numbers portion of this, I'm going to compare it directly to the Pinnacle Rush. Like I said, I expect this golf ball to perform just a little bit worse than the Pinnacle Rush did, just because I think that's more for the mid swinger, like low to mid swinger, and I think this one's exclusively low, but we will find that out. So that's why we're going to compare them. So the first number off the 9 iron, we're looking at a 93.2 mile per hour ball speed. That is just under, not much, by 0.5 than the Pinnacle Rush. So that's actually pretty close, and it's still a very good number. So it's good to see. Anytime you get 93 or a better, it's really jumping off the 9 iron quite well. 128.1 on the distance total, 122.2 on the carry, and then 19.1 on your launch. So the main difference I'm seeing between those is the distance was pretty close, just a couple yards shorter on both regards, but the launch angle, it was about 1.6 lower on the degrees than the Pinnacle Rush. The Pinnacle Rush was 20.7. So the Rush launched a lot higher. This one does launch a little lower. Kind of weird for a soft golf ball. Usually those do launch higher, but this one launched significantly lower, but the numbers were still pretty close. So overall, I would say it was good. Sometimes it's not good to get the ball up in the air, especially here in Florida where we get lots of wind. Sometimes you don't want it that high up. So moving into the 7 iron, we've got 6,497 on the spin, and that is slightly more than the Rush by about 250 RPM somewhat. And then 107.2, again, very close to the Rush. 106 was the 107.6, excuse me, was the Rush. Only 0.4 difference there, so very close. And those are still both good numbers. I like that a lot. And then 160 for the distance. Anytime you can hit 160 on total distance for my 7 iron, that's awesome. So the number's still great. It was a few yards short of the Rush though, and it was also three yards short of the Rush on the carry, which was 148.7. Still a great number, though. And then this time, the Soft actually launched higher, 18.3 compared to the Rush's 17.9. So with that being said, it launched a little higher with the 7-iron, but most of the numbers are still pretty consistent, and that's impressive. What I really like about those numbers, besides the fact that they are just good numbers, they're very consistent. I mean, everything is exactly the same under the Rush. You know, it lost 3 yards, and it's weird because some of them are even like, it lost 3.2 yards on the carry, it lost 3.2 yards on the total distance, which you would think, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's not normally a thing. That's really cool how consistent it is. So I like seeing that. Then getting into the 5 hybrid, 3,698. So now we're going back to less spin than the Rush, not by much though, maybe 100 RPMs at the most. And then you've got a 117.5 on the mile per hour ball speed, which actually is slightly higher than the Rush, and that's a fantastic number. 117, I mean, you're talking, the highest number I ever got was the Enesis 900. And this was just slightly under that. So I would have to say that that's a very good number. 192.4 on the total distance, which is actually less than the Rush. So it got more mile per hour speed, but it got less distance on both regards there. 178.3 on the carry, and then 13.1 on the launch, which is pretty much the same as the Rush. So maybe the fact that it got just a little lower launch, that's the only thing I can think of. You're talking bare minimum there, though. Very consistent with how the Rush did. And then getting into the big stick, 3,046 on the spin there for the driver, which is just, I mean, basically about 100 RPMs more than the Rush. 237.9. So here's our difference. Here's our difference right here. This is where the soft part of it really comes into play. 237.9 on the distance opposed to 245.9 on the Rush, 132.4 on your ball mile per hour speed compared to 134.7. So 2 mile an hour loss there, just because this one being made for a little bit slower swingers. When I did get to the driver finally, it just didn't compress as well. So with that being said, 217.1 on the carry. I lost about 8 yards of carry, excuse me. And then launch was 15.7, which is basically exactly the same as the Rush, a 0.3 degree difference. So nothing crazy there. So overall, what I see, what I anticipated on this golf ball doing, it pretty much did. Now I thought it would do it to more of a degree with the irons, but it didn't. It stayed pretty close as far as the Pinnacle Rush, as far as those numbers go. But once I got to the driver, it was apparent that the Pinnacle Rush is more for the mid swingers and this one's for the low swingers. So with that regard, I would have to say probably, you know, unless you're swinging 85 or lower, I would stay away from the Soft probably. Real quick though, let's get into the durability. So this, it kind of reminds me exactly of how the Rush was. It's an okay durability. There are some scuffs and everything. Nothing too bad to prevent the ball from being usable as far as deep cuts or threads. But there is some scraping going on. There is some roughness. You can see it's kind of starting to shave off the top a little bit. Nothing too hectic, but just an average score. I would say for the price, though, it's pretty decent, but it has done better than some Pro Balls I've tested, that's for sure, but it reminds me a lot of that. So overall, just an okay performance there. So who is this golf ball for? Well, like I said with the Pinnacle Rush, you can find these golf balls just about darn near everywhere. They sell them all over the place. They're very inexpensive. They're very affordable. However, I will say that the Pinnacle Soft is what it says. It's soft. It is going to be for swingers who are 85 and lower, your senior players, you know, your guys who just maybe juniors. You know, I think my mom uses actually like a pink version of the Pinnacle Soft because she usually takes half swings. So anything when you're not swinging really fast, it's going to compress a little bit better, whereas the Pinnacle Rush is more for your mid-swingers. I could see the 85 to 95 mile an hour swing crowd using that golf ball just fine. Once you get over that, though, unfortunately, probably these golf balls are out of your range a little bit. But overall, they both performed really consistently. They both forgave really well. I was really impressed. And if you're someone who's looking for a good two-piece golf ball, it may not be the best I've tested, but both of them are very consistent, very forgiving, and they definitely get my seal of approval. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. Keep watching to keep saving and keep learning. We got another one coming up in just a short couple days. Stay tuned.